In this tutorial, I'm going to show how to make an AI follow the player. So there's a few things that we need to do. So first of all, go to the level that you want the AI to walk around. So I'm just going to use the third person template level. What we need to do, we need to be able to place what's called a nav mesh bounds. So by default, the engine doesn't calculate where the AI can move. It needs to be a specific thing that you put into the level, which then calculates everything and tells the AI what's the best way to get from point A to point B. So what we need to do, so by default this isn't there, so that place actors panel. So the way to do it, on the box here, so it's got a little cube and then a plus icon, it's next to select mode. At the bottom, place actors panel. So if we click that, we'll get this, and we can start searching for various things. So if I search nav, we get these options. So it's called nav mesh bounds, so you can search nav mesh and it'll bring up just the bounds. So if I drag that somewhere in the middle and then start to scale this up to fit the entire level, so it's okay if it's a little bit bigger, and then if I just scale this up a little bit more, if I press P now, so imagine P for preview, it previews the nav mesh bounds and what can be walked on by the AI. So if I press P, anything that's highlighted green is able to be walked on. So we can see currently there's a cutout here, so the AI won't be able to get up onto this platform, but if they're spawned on the platform, they would be able to walk around. And you can see the green here, so they can walk up this ramp to here, and then they won't be able to get to here because it's cut out. Okay, and they'll walk around these obstacles here. So once we've got that, we now have something that the AI can walk around. So if you don't have this, the AI won't be able to walk around. So if I press P again, take that preview off. And let's make sure it fits properly. Yeah, so we've got that there. Right, so now we need to actually make an AI. So the easiest way to do it is to duplicate the third person character. So with the third person character, it's already all set up with the movement and everything. So if we just duplicate this and then call it, I'm going to call it BP_enemy. So an enemy that chases you, let's say, but you can name it whatever. So if you've got a companion in the game, you might have this as a companion that follows you around. It's the same principle. So if I open this up, all of this code is currently controls that the player does. So we don't need this for an AI, because obviously you're not going to be controlling the AI. And there's a few other things that we can do. So if we've got any additional like variables that aren't default, so score is one of them, I can delete that, clean it up. And the AI won't need a camera. So I can, on here, delete the camera. So these kind of things you can't delete. So if you try delete, you can't. But the camera is something that's added in. So we can delete that camera. So it's now an optimized thing. So what we then need to do, we need to make the AI follow the player. So the way to do that is if we put in a tick. So here we have a tick that's going to run every frame, and then what we might do is get the AI to move to the character, but there's an issue with that with the event tick. So if we got a character movement is where you can set all of the different variables. So the one that we might want to change is max walk speed. We might want to put that to something a little bit slower than the player, because in games typically enemies run a little bit slower than the player, so the player can run away if they're low on health. But there's also this thing, so max acceleration. So there's acceleration to the enemy, so if every frame we're telling it to move somewhere, it'll reset the acceleration and it'll effectively just be stood still. So what we need to do is we need to put what's called a delay. So every frame, run through this, but delay every 0.2 seconds. So then it will only run through every 0.2 seconds. So you can change that to something larger if you want to optimize it, but the lower the number, the more accurate it will be. So I'm just going to leave it 0.2, the default one for now. And then if I drag off this completed, so every 0.2 seconds completed gets fired. So if I then do AI move to, so make sure it's the one that has the little window icon. So if you search AI move to, you get move to location or actor, or AI move to. Make sure it's exactly the name of AI move to. And then you get this with a few different options on them. So this is where we can set it to move towards the player. So this pawn, we need to get a reference to self. So if you just drag off that to the left and then search self, it will bring up a reference to self. If we don't, it doesn't tell this current blueprint, so the BP underscore enemy, to move anywhere. So this needs a reference to what it needs to move, which is itself. Then the target actor, so there's a few here, so destination, I'll cover that just after this though, but target actor is something that the AI needs to move towards. So what we can do here, we can get a very quick, easy reference to the player. So if we do get player character, if it's a single player game, this will always go towards the player that is currently controlled by yourself. So if we do get player character, it will then move towards the player. So if I compile that, save that, then minimize, and I drag an enemy into the world somewhere, I can now see this is following. Yeah? So if I start to move, you can see they start walking and then go to move. So if we had that on a tick, they'd always be in a state of starting to walk. But here we have it. But then if I jump up onto here, the enemy now can't get up here because there wasn't any green linking it up. What we can do though, if we get this, move it, then scale it upwards. Okay. If I put it like that, if I press P now, there is a green section that links it up. So if I then walk up here, it does that. So there's a couple of things with this though. So this will work with things that you're doing in the editor because it'll just update it. But if you play the game and have something moving within the game, it won't update it. So there's something you can do in the nav mesh to do that, but I won't cover it in this video. So we've got it where the enemy follows the player, but there's a few different options. So acceptance radius, this will be if they're within the radius of units around the player, they will then stop. So this is useful if you've got something like a ranged enemy, or you're wanting your companion that's following you to be a little bit behind you. If I set this to quite a large number, so 500, by default it's 5, if I set it to 500 and let it get to me, it will then stop within a 500 unit radius around. So I can still move up to it and it won't move away, but if I then move away from 500, it'll get to a 500 unit space. So this is good if you've got ranged enemies. Another thing, if in your game you've got, yours is a stealth game or a game that has a lot of AI that don't interact with a player, if you want them to patrol around, you can set this destination rather than a target actor. So if I delete this target actor, so we've got it chasing the player currently, if we want it to go to a destination, then once it's reached that destination, go to another destination, we can set that up. So the way we need to do that, if we delete the tick, we just want to start a loop. So if I do a begin play, so on begin play, move to this one location. So here's where we need to find out what those locations are. So if I just move this character, so if I scroll to the top so I can see the location on the right, so if I see the location, I can know these coordinates. So if I start putting it, so let's do 2500 by 250. Yep. So 2500 by 250. So 2500 by 250. And then it also has a 90 there. Let's just put that there just so nothing goes wrong. And then on success, so we'll want a reference to the self again. So once it's successfully reached this location, so we want to put the acceptance radius down. So once we've successfully got to this destination, move to a new destination. So I'm going to have it here, so 2000. So all we've changed from here to here is that this 250 is now 2000. Okay, and then let's just do one more. So I'll do on success, move to a new location. So I'm going to have it where it moves up to here. So this is, I'll put that to 1500. So 1500 by 290. So that's the only two things that have changed. This is still 2000, 290, 1500. And then once this has been successful, I want to loop it back to the first AI move to. So the way to do that, link it up, and then just do a couple of reroute nodes, just to make it nice and neat, and I can see this is clearly a loop. So it goes on begin play, so just the first frame, launch this. So then it'll do instantly AI move to this location. And then once that's successful, go to the next one. Once that's successful, go to the next one, then loop all the way back round to the first location. So this is where you can start to have a patrol. And then if anything, if you then have an event for when it sees the player, you can then override this. So if you set a new AI move to, it should override it. So if we compile, save that, and then play, we'll then see the enemy moving to those coordinates that we set. So it's going to go to the first one. It successfully reached that. So then we're going to go to the second one. It reached that one, and now it's going to go to this one here. So I think what's happening there, yeah, so the acceptance radius, I didn't move it to 5. So again, let's have a look at that. So the larger the acceptance radius, the less it needs to be near to that. So if you put it to 5, it will go to exactly the point pretty much. So it's going to go there, and it's going to walk up to the other place, and then it'll keep looping that. So this is good for a set patrol route. And that's how you set up a basic AI to both follow the player and also go to patrol points.